for South Asian Month? What's going on? You've got a project.
Yeah, so I currently work for the Anne Frank Trust, and part of my role is actually trying to create the Youth Empowerment Programme, which is our young ambassadors who are trying to tackle discrimination and prejudice in their communities and their schools. So it's, young people who are between the ages of about 10 to 15, and what we've set them is a task to kind of get them to actually voice their opinions about what does South Asian Heritage Month mean to them. And who are the icons, who are the South Asian icons. So it would be really interesting to kind of see what their responses are. So we've given them a deadline until the end of next week to kind of get their responses, and that will be shared all across social media, because it's more important really to hear from young people themselves, and particularly those that are from South Asian heritage, to feel that they've got a space to be able to talk about their own background and their heritage and their culture and what that means. So that's our project at the Anne Frank Trust, which I'm really excited to see all the responses from those young people.
And I always try, and for our viewers, I'm always trying to list them. So it's kind of like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal. I've missed quite a few out. The Maldives is in South Asia.
South Asia is huge, and it's so diverse and such a complicated history. And the history, our history, in the UK, and the relationship with South Asia is very complex, as we know, and there are lots of problematic parts of our history that we need to also be very open and talk about, in terms of the British Empire and British rule in South Asia and so on. But there's so much to also be able to celebrate, the history and the culture and everything that the South Asian community has brought to this country is huge. And so it's a real opportunity to reflect on.
Miss Marvel on Disney Plus. They have obviously they've got a Muslim superhero, and they've been talking about the partition and things like that. And a lot of people who don't know this information are now getting to grips with it, are learning it, are researching it for themselves.
Really admiring that.
Yeah, the representation. I mean, I remember seeing that, and so many young people that I've been working with sent that over and just said, "Look, it looks like me. It's somebody who represents me and who I am." And I just, I think there's no other thing that's as great as people being able to see themselves in these superheroes, in these brilliant, actors, actresses, people who are there showing up and being in that space and being able to connect to them.
Yeah, well, you and I are standard bearers and flag wavers for the hashtag See Me, Be Me. We are there saying that out there so that people and young people can aspire to those roles, aspire to be a superhero. And other superheroes are superheroes of the field. What's happening today? Something is kicking off.
I told you I was going to get you. If you
I love that. I love that, Carol. I've actually got my eye on this side to catch in the game, and England's actually just scored, amazingly enough. So the UEFA Euros have kicked off in Trafford. So England are playing Austria at the moment, which is fantastic. And I have to say, you know what? I was so normally when you're talking about women's sport and women's football particularly, there isn't really a lot of attention on it. There isn't this kind of build up of energy and time spent talking about the women's game. And actually, there's just been so much more this time round. And I think it's just incredible. I was watching just the opening segment on TV and just, listening to actually the players and what they're feeling and what they're thinking, and being introduced to the Austria team. And it's phenomenal. I think, we need to be doing so much more about the women's game and taking seriously actually women in sport.
They're all so skillful. And the event we were at on Saturday, the GM4Women 2028 event, I interviewed a little 10-year-old. She came to me in the Pop-Up Your Manchester studio in her football kit, and I interviewed her, which we'll put out in the next week or so, and talked about her passion for football. And I said to her, "What's the best thing about playing football?" And she said, "When I play football on a mixed team with the boys, they underestimate me and I slide tackle them And I thought, go on, girl.
Go on, yeah,
It's a big thing, isn't it? Because obviously we had like the World Cup a few years ago with the last one that we were really doing very well in. And a lot of people were going like, oh, isn't it awful that we didn't get as far? Well, actually, the women's team did really well in the Women's World Cup. So it's one of those recognition things. It should be on the same par. But you've not only been talking about the football and how empowering it is for the women, you've also been talking about the racism in football, along with the 3 hijabs, which is fantastic, by the way.
Thank you.
So what kind of work have you been pushing out there? Because racism is so prominent in football. Even today, I was at a Manchester United match a few weeks ago, and you still hear it in some of those chants. Do you think that football, for some people, is almost an outlet for racism?
I think, the problem is that, the racism that we see in football is just a symptom of the racism that we see generally in society. And I think, if football just seems to be that space that some people choose to display that racist behavior. And so, for us, I think the 3 hijabis really started off as kind of a tweet that went viral randomly last year. Actually, it was around this time last year I saw the messages, when you get your Facebook, memories sent. So we were on Channel 4, I think, when the viral tweet went out, and the 3 hijabis, the play on the 3 hijabis going to see England thrash the 3 lions thrash Ukraine or whatever it was at the time, and it just platformed. I think the problem is that women's voices, and particularly women who are minoritized in communities' voices, talking about sport, it's just not what you see. It's just not, you hardly see women, let alone women who look like me, talking about football. And so we became almost, suddenly all this interest, the number of interviews we had over that week. And then when the final game happened, we'd had a bit of we had this platform that was created from that tweet. And it was just disappointing, it was just so upsetting to see the reaction of actually nobody expected the England team to get as far as it did in the first place. And then to actually get to the final and push Italy, who's an excellent team, right to penalties was a massive achievement in its own. We had a really young team. And then to see the, just the atrocious level of racist abuse.
The vitriol was terrible.
Absolutely disgusting. And so we just felt like we needed to use that little bit of a platform that we had to do something. And that petition that we sent out the morning after that game, just in less than 48 hours, got over 1 million signatures. And it obviously meant
to. I looked at.
Yeah, it's now at 1.2. But that first, that kind of energy was really, that first 2 days was just insane. And we were all over the place talking to people were sharing it, celebrities were signing it. It was just insane, so it was, and for us it gave us a bit of hope. It was like, at least we're having this conversation, and at least people felt like they they could do something to say this wasn't okay, that we can't be in a
society
that accepts that these players could just be abused and just left.
And that's brilliant. And before you go, Amna, and for your two colleagues, give them a shout out. Let's have their names.
Oh, my 2 colleagues, the brilliant Shaista Aziz and Huda Jawad, the 2 other hijabis.
You 3 are the 3. You are the 3 lionesses. Your Manchester will be right behind you. You are our 3 lionesses. It's fantastic. But one more thing. Congratulations on being shortlisted in the ITV National Diversity Awards. I did a whoop whoop shout out for you on Twitter.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Really appreciate it. Thanks so much to you both.
And thank you for joining us. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you very much, Amna.
Thank you.
Honestly, it's fantastic to hear things like that.
Yeah.
It really is.
Her and the ladies are, she's a diamond. They're diamonds. They're the lionesses. They are the lionesses.
Does that mean that we're just like the Pride?
Oh.
Especially on this show, I think that works well.
Yeah, that works really